All right. All right. Looks like we're live. It's 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 30th of August, 2022. And thank you all for being here. Those of you here that are here, remember you can ask a question right inside the live stream. Just put it in the comment section. And if you're watching this as a recording, you can always ask a question afterwards, and I will see that and try to answer it, or anybody in our group could answer these questions. Okay. Um, I was going to talk about some products today, but I got two calls already this morning regarding pricing for our products, okay, and how to price, not our products, but how to price doing odor removal jobs. Okay, one was a skunk odor, and another one was urine odor on tile, on ceramic tile. Okay, so and both of them were calling about how would they approach selling the job to the person when the client, all they can think about is the price. And so this is how I've done it. I'm not saying you need to do it my way. It's just an idea. Okay. Um, I seem to have a little bit of allergy problem today because my voice is a little messed up, but I did, I was just riding my Concept 2 rowing machine in there, and I did just break my best record ever. My best record was 1 minute 53 seconds in doing 500 meters on the rowing machine. I just did it at 1.50, 1 minute 50 seconds. Now, my best score in Colorado Springs when I was doing CrossFit every day was 157, but it's 2,000 feet higher. So I think the elevation drop has a lot to do with me actually beating the record, but I'm so glad that I was able to beat my other record that I did last week. So that's cool. So, and it's really hard. So when you're done doing it, it's pretty much you can't breathe for a few minutes and then you get your breath back. But I know a lot of you out there that are young and strong and work out every day. That's probably nothing for you. But for me, 1 minute, 50 seconds is like a landslide. It was awesome. All right. So I got these calls, right? And talking about price. And I get these calls quite a bit, especially when we have new members, a new person starting to use our products out there doing odor control. You know, they've been used to being a carpet cleaner, charging like $25 a spot, right? Doing urine. I'm talking about urine. Most carpet cleaners will never tackle, most restoration companies for that case will not tackle cigarette smoke because it's so difficult to get rid of with conventional methods of removing those types of odors. Cigarette is not as simple as a fire in a house, right? Because a fire in a house, if it's bad enough, we can just remove the walls and justify it with the insurance company, right? There's things we can do to remove that smell. And remember, those smells, let me just tell my son real quick. Hey, Josh, I'm on my live stream right now. You're on live. Say something nice.
Hey everyone.
Hey, everyone. My dad tells me every day that he goes live at 12, but I forget. Say something nice. Yeah. I'll call you back. All right, son?
All right.
Love you. Bye. All right. Anyway, yep. My son. He does listen for the most part, right? But he is 41 years old, so he does have a mind of his own. So anyway, and we talk about business quite a bit, him and I, because he's my baby. Those of you that have parents, listen, that are newer parents, and I see a lot of you out there with these new kids, they never stop being your baby. Believe me, you think they stop being that, but they don't. They're your child forever and ever and ever. And it doesn't matter how old my son is. It's the same, right? He's still my baby. All right. So, man, I'm getting off track. And a lot of people say, God, Joe goes down some of these rabbit holes. But let's talk about pricing and how I go about it. So both calls I got, right? One was a smoke one, and one was that the tile one is a little more difficult. Okay. So how I've always approached this and how most of you should approach it, even when we bring new people in, they're normally like carpet cleaners. One of them owns a ChemDry franchise. And so they've been out in the field for years and years doing odor control, but doing it the conventional way, the way everybody does it. Maybe they just use an enzyme. Maybe they just clean the surface. No one's using chlorine dioxide gas for the most part. And how do I know this? Because I market to get new clients in to buy our products because I have master dealers. And There's not a lot of people that really understand what it is. It just blows my mind to this day, even in 2022, as long as we've all been using it. I've been using it now for almost 7 years, that most cleaners don't even know about it, or they're afraid of it. They've heard horror stories. And that's good for you, right? Because the less people that are doing it, that you don't have the competition. And so that's good for you, right? It takes time for some people to come up with, changing things over. For me, it never takes a lot of time. It takes about 5 seconds for me to make a decision, and I make a decision on the spot. Okay. So, anyway, how I approach it is like this. When people are calling about price, what are they going to do? What's the number one thing they're going to do? Well, they're going to get other bids, right? They're going to go out and get other bids. They're going to try to find the cheapest person on the planet, in the universe, to do this job. And we all know what that means. You just paid somebody to do nothing for you. So the job didn't even get done, and you still paid them. They might have used a masking agent to get rid of that odor so it smells good while you're writing that check or giving them that credit card number, right? And then that you leave a couple days later, that masking smell, the cherry lemon, pretty popular smells, wears off and the smell returns, because there's the conventional ways just don't work most of the time. Sometimes they do if it's small amounts. And I was in business 27 years. I only used chlorine dioxide the last 5 months of owning my business. So I've done all that. And you all know my story. I stopped doing odor control for like 13 years because I got tired of all these losses, right? Like we couldn't get rid of the odor. And more than that, if you really are a compassionate person and you're not only thinking about yourself, like all of our politicians out there, they think about themselves and they don't think about us, right? And so it's very, very important that you think about the end user and how you're going to take care of them, right? And giving them that 150%, even though my good friend John Sweeney said there's no such thing as 150%, which he's technically right. It's a figure of speech. Okay, so I start out like this. And so I start talking about all the products I used to use. So what am I doing when I do that? What I'm doing is I'm knocking out the competition. I'm giving them, by the time I get done with this, they were never going to do it anyway, or what are they going to say? I'm going to get other bids from who? The people that I just told you about that it doesn't work. So how I do it is like this, and this is true. I'm not making this up. I did use all those products and they didn't work. I would say if they called me for that, let's talk about number one, cigarette smoke. Let's talk about that one first. Most companies, most restoration companies, cleaners, if they have an ozone machine, if they're even going to attempt it, they're going to use a high gram ozone machine. So they're going to go into your house, Mrs. Smith, with their ozone machine, maybe 2 of them, depending on how many square feet you have, maybe 3. I had several ozone machines. And why did I use them if they don't work? Because the insurance companies expected you to use them, and they expected to see on the bill when you get rid of odor, no matter, even though you use other stuff to really get rid of the odor, they paid you like that. In Colorado Springs, when I was doing it in restoration, it was about 5 cents a cubic foot. And do you know how hard it is to use an ozone machine? Those of you who have never used one, it's as hard as plugging in a light. All you do is plug it in, turn it on, leave. Come back the next day, turn it off, unplug it, you're done. It's that much work. It's literally 10 seconds of work. So if that worked, Mrs. Jones, and I was going to charge you $500 or $1,000 or whatever it is to try to get rid of this odor in your home, do you not think I'd be using ozone machines all day if it's 10 seconds of work? And I would even send them a picture. Like I would send them a picture of what an ozone machine looks like if they want one. Like if I was in my shop, I'd picture and I send it. Say, see all these ozone machines on my shelf? Now I don't have a shelf anymore, but I did with a lot of them. And so I would do something like that. They're all just sitting there getting dust now because they don't work. So you're going to get people saying, oh yeah, they work. Now, if you've smoked in your house for maybe a weekend, you had friends over and they smoked for a weekend and they weren't supposed to, or you're an Airbnb, yes, that ozone machine might work because it hasn't penetrated. But what kind of calls do we usually get? We don't usually get Airbnb, although we do get those calls, and we're able to take care of marijuana smells and cigarette and any type of tobacco, even pipe and cigar, right? If it's a weekend, we can get rid of it way easier. But what if they smoke for 20 years, Mrs. Jones? Do you think that ozone machine is not going to penetrate the tar on the wall? It's not going to get rid of that odor. So it's just not going to happen. And most companies are not going to clean all those walls. Because why? Because a carpet cleaner or most restoration companies don't think it's going to work anyway. I never did. I mean, I've got 27 years owning a restoration company. I didn't attempt cigarette smoke because I couldn't have any wins, and I couldn't figure out how to charge enough money for it to be feasible for me, right? For it to actually work. So I just didn't do that. So what I do is I start with ozone, right? If it's something like that, okay. Then I go on to enzymes and sprays and things like that. So I say, look, so what if they call about cat urine or dog urine in a carpet? Well, I talk about all the products I've used in the past, right? Because I've been in business a lot of years, and every one of you listening that own a business, that work with us, that are members in our groups, every one of you have been in business for several years. So you have a story of using these products, because if you're a carpet cleaner, you're doing urine control also in homes. And how did I do it before? And I would explain that to Mrs. Jones. I would go in there, Mrs. Jones. Now the carpet cleaner that's going to do it almost the correct way is going to flood the carpet in that area with water, and he's going to extract it. He or she will extract it with a tool called a water claw. All right, so we're getting all the yellow out, all the urine, as much as we can, and we're left with just a few salts left in there, but the smell's still there because you're not going to get rid of all of it. And then they might spray something on your carpet, or they might add some enzymes and let it sit there for an hour or two, and then extract that, and it smells really, really pretty for a few days. And then what happens? The masking agent, the smell that they're using to cover up the urine smell, dissipates, and the smell comes back. Yes, Mrs. Jones, that was maybe $250, something like that, $100, whatever it was. But you just spent money that you're never getting back, and it didn't get rid of the problem. And so I go over these scenarios of all the different types of odors. And what I'll do is I'll listen to what their odor is, and then I talk about that, all the ways I've tried, right? And I'd even go as far as saying, I've even tried in the past removing the pad right there and cleaning the front and the back of the carpet and cleaning the subfloor. And even doing that, if there's enough urine, the smell comes back in a week, right? Even with all of that, even adding enzymes to the floor, because there's other things that we got to do it correctly if there's enough urine. Yes, I absolutely agree, Mrs. Jones. If you only have one or two spots, that I might be able to get away with that. And the cat's new or the dog's new, and it's only been like a month, or less or something like that. They've been urinating. I might be able to get rid of it with conventional tools and conventional chemicals and doing it the way everybody does it. So everybody says they can do this great thing, but there's only one of me in Seattle, right, that does this new system that actually works. We have 100% guarantee. If the smell comes back, you get your money back. No one else is guaranteeing that. They're basically telling you they did everything they could, right? That's all they're doing. And so you just lost that money. And what happens, Mrs. Jones, is usually you'll go out and you'll buy some sprays, and that doesn't work, right? And then you'll try some Resolve or stuff like that, and you're going to add all this stuff to your carpet. Then you call a carpet cleaner, and then you call another carpet cleaner because it didn't work. And by the time you're done, you've spent $1,000. Then you call me. Now all of a sudden you spent all your money and you want the biggest deal known to man from me, because you've already spent your money on these other people. So I'm the one that gets to take the brunt of not getting paid correctly, because you already spent your money and now you don't have enough money. And so I always talk to people about all the ways I've done it in the past, and it works almost 99% of the time. And, a really good salesperson, and I probably need to bring him on to one of these meetings, is Dave Snyder. He is unbelievable. He closes almost every job. And so I will bring him on, and I'll have an interview with Dave, what he does, because he is so good at it. And it's like, you're good at it when it's like you don't have to think about it, right? You know your trade, you know what you're doing. And so If you don't talk about the competition when they call, how you used to do it, that leaves the door open for them to say, well, that sounds really good, Joe. I'm going to get a few more bids. That's what I hear you got to do. Get a few bids. Well, okay. I'm sorry to hear that, Mrs. Jones. Yeah. Let me know if you want to use this. If I take that off the table, they got to make a decision at that point. Now, I'm not trying to screw them over. I'm not trying to bait and switch. I know with 32 years now in this business, or longer than that, man, what, 33 years or something, 33 years in this business, that I've tried all those things and they don't work. I know what we use now when we use chlorine dioxide and we use some of the products we have like soil break and the gassing that we can do and all this, and the way we seal with our sealer, right, our EnviroSeal and things, we usually get 100% odor removal process done. It's 100%, right? The odor's gone forever. And if it's not, they should get their money back. We should guarantee them that. Now, several of you, most of you haven't done this, and it just reminded me, one of our clients, I was supposed to put this on his website. Now I gotta write this down. But okay, when I first built the first website that we started using, in the very beginning when we all started, a lot of you were in ACES with us. We were using a website built from another company, and it was a decent website, but it didn't. My wife thought it looked like a car dealership, like we were selling cars. She didn't understand what it was. So I went out and built my own website over the weekend. Everybody wanted that website. Those of you that have been with us for nearly 7 years now know that I think it was called All Odors Gone was the first website, and then we started making subdomains. Everybody wanted that website, but they didn't want my guarantee. They didn't believe in that kind of guarantee. They were scared to death. My guarantee on my website said, if I can't get rid of the odor, not only will you not pay me, but I will give you $250 cash for wasting your time. No questions asked. Who does that? Right? Who does that? Well, why wouldn't you guarantee your clients something like that? And the only reason you wouldn't do that is you don't believe in what you're doing. There's no other reason. I mean, because $250 is not a big deal. And I even did the math. If I closed 10 jobs and 3 or 4 of them said it didn't work for them and weren't going to pay and wanted the $250, I would still make a profit. I'm not of course, not as big, but I would not lose because my pricing structure protects me from that. And it's not overpriced. We're giving 100% guarantee and offering them, if I was offering $250 cash. And really what I was telling the client when they asked me about it was, look, our process, we got to do it. It's overnight. All right. You got to be out of the house. You got to be in a hotel. Here's what I'm saying. Go get you a hotel, take the kids swimming, eat you a nice dinner, and have like a 1-day vacation with your family. If it doesn't work, I just paid for your 1-day vacation. If it does work, voila, you no longer have to hire 20 more cleaners to come in to try to get rid of this odor that you've been trying to get rid of for the last 6 months. So I have a conversation with people. I have a story. I talk to them about what I know doesn't work. Why do you think I quit using chlorine dioxide for 13 or quit doing odor control for 13 years and stopped doing that kind of stuff, right? Because I'm so, I would give people their money back every time. But it wasn't giving the money back that bothered me. What bothered me was a look on their face that they were so hoping to get rid of that odor. They needed it gone so bad. And sometimes a new daughter-in-law, right? Like they've been married for 6 months and the mother and father-in-law are coming to visit. They're scared to death. The house smells like dog pee or whatever because they got a new puppy. And what am I going to do? My mother-in-law is going to hate me and all this, right? So I would get those kind of looks because it didn't work. Even though they weren't having to pay or I was giving them money, it didn't matter. What mattered to them is they needed this thing done. Now, I'm not saying there's not a few snakes in the bush. There absolutely are, but you got to be smart enough and you got to be street smart enough to see right through that. And I am, right? So I can do that. And most of you can do that. You know if somebody's shady, by the questions they ask, right? So you listen to what they're saying to you. But I know of no other way to sell other than telling stories. I love telling stories. I love talking about how I've done things and how I'm doing things now and why am I doing it this way now? Because quite frankly, our new process works. Remember, I used to call it the miracle vapor gassing system. And then I was doing some advertising and Google gave me a warning that there's no such thing as a miracle. So you can't advertise. I couldn't advertise the word miracle. I don't know if that's still true today. I'm sure it is. But back then I got a note from them that I can't use that word because it's deceptive. There's no such thing as a miracle. Well, they don't know Jesus like I do because there is such a thing as a miracle. As those of you know that have used our products, it's quite frankly just right below a miracle, man. It sometimes we do these jobs and we're like, oh my gosh, how did I get rid of that odor? I remember the very first smoke job I did, 2,500 square feet. My son helped me with this. Me and my son went into this job, and it's one of the testimonies I have on the website from the real estate guy. He inherited the house from his parents. His brother lived in there and smoked. He was still smoking and had to move out while I did this. And the parents smoked for 50 years. Like, so they must have been fairly older, right? Because they passed away and smoked in there for 50 years. And that's what he says on his testimony. They literally smoked for 50 years. I'm walking up to the door and you can smell the smoke. It's so strong. And I have never done a smoke job with using these products. Like I've tried to do it with ozone before and quit doing it because it doesn't work. Well, we and remember, I wrote my own protocol, how to clean and how to use the gas and how much to use. And back then I said, we're going to use 1 bucket per 500 square feet. So I actually went over that in 2,500 square feet. That would be 5 buckets, 5 systems. I used 7. I overdid it. I was so afraid to go back in the next morning to smell it that I sent my son in to smell. And he goes, I don't smell anything, Dad. I'm like, no way, man. Let me in there. You can't smell. And I walk in and I couldn't smell it. You know what the owner did of the house, the one that inherited the house, the real estate guy? He said he was talking to a friend of his, and he said, I just masked it, that he needed to turn the heat all the way up, close everything up for 3 days. I'm scared to death at this point, right? Because I know you can bake stuff out of the walls. I've never done this. I don't know how well it works yet, right? And so I had to go with it. He wasn't going to pay me. He wanted to try that first. He couldn't believe I got rid of the smell either because it's nearly impossible, right? Anyway, 3 days go by and I haven't heard from him. And so now I'm like all bummed out. And remember, I'm new at this. I'm going to stop using this stuff. It doesn't work. All this stuff goes through your head, right? So what happens is he calls me on the 4th day because I did the job. It was Saturday when we got there, right? We picked everything up on a Sunday afternoon because that's when we met him there. We met him and he didn't smell it either. That's when he told us that. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, he was going to keep the heat up and that the rest of Sunday, right? And he was going to call me on, no, maybe it was the other way. He was going to do it Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. He was going to call me on Wednesday and he didn't call me. So I'm in a panic. I'm not going to call him because I don't want to be let down. I know in my head I'm thinking, no way this worked, right? And he calls me Thursday morning, goes, hey, I'm ready to give you that testimony. And you can come down to the office and pick up a check. Okay, so I videotape him giving the testimony. He gives me a check. He says, I can't believe it, and my friend can't believe it. There's no smoke smell at all. I was actually as surprised as he was because I was new at this. That's how great our product is. So when you have that, once you tackle a job like that, there's nothing you can't do, right? There's nothing. Remember the job I did with Wendy and when they smoked why is it always 50 years? But it is. They smoked cigars in this house, this duplex for 50 years. Now that was the worst job I've ever seen in my life. The walls were really white, but they were dark orange from that much smoking. I don't even know how somebody lived in a house like that. It was so bad you couldn't even hardly breathe. We got rid of that odor. Once you have jobs like that under your belt, you no longer doubt this, right? You have all this confidence now, right? Like, like the rooster that grows up and he's got his chest out, man. He's got all this confidence. He's going to run all the hens, right? I'm in charge of all these hens and I'm the rooster in charge. Here I am. Look at me, right? It's sort of like some of the politicians that we see that think they're all badass and they're not because they're only thinking of themselves. Right. And they're not thinking about us. Or if they were thinking about us, we would not have veterans living on the street. Oh, I don't need to get into all that. I'll stop. Okay. We wouldn't have teachers getting underpaid. I'm sorry. Anyway, it would be different, right? So maybe I should run for president because I would change stuff so fast your head would spin. Anyway, it's really that simple, right? You have a story, you get the confidence. You've done a few jobs. You got this confidence now. If you haven't done any jobs, like the gentleman I talked to this morning, he hasn't done any jobs yet. He's one of Michael's friends, right? That does this stuff. He hasn't ever done a job, and so he doesn't have any confidence yet. He's only got my confidence. So I got to give him the confidence. You guys got to give him the confidence. That's why we have a team. That's why we're a network of cleaners all over the world, right? Because we help each other out. We come up with ways. Dave Snyder and Mark, Dave Snyder and Mark, God, in Washington. Anyway, they came up with the system for urine, like cat urine, the best way to do it. We had a system. They came up with a better system. Now we use that system. See, that's what's cool about our network. We have all these people out there every day doing these jobs, and they come up with a new way to do things and a better way to do things. And then I'm able to talk to them. Then I'm able to share that with you, and they're able to share it, right? So we're continuously getting better. Remember, once you get that confidence, there's nothing you can't do. So you tell your story. You do a job with this, and you get rid of that odor, and you talk about how you used to do it to get rid of the competition. Because how else are you going to? Because even me, right? If I'm going to buy new windows, right, and this window guy comes in, and he goes, okay, that's $30,000 for windows. I'm like, oh my God, $30,000. I'm going to try to get bids. I'm going to get other bids. If he comes in and he says, look, these Pella windows are different than any other window out there. So if you go out and get other bids, that's great, but they're not comparable. Even if you try to get other Pella windows from other, like if you go to Denver to get it instead of Colorado Springs or Fort Collins, they're all great. It's the same window, but Mr. Sorensen, it's not the window alone. It's the installer. I would sell my installer as he's been doing this for 28 years. The guy knows every little trick in the book. He makes sure there's no air coming into your house on the edges. There's by far the best person I've ever seen cut those windows out so they're perfect. They go in perfectly. He goes, look, anybody can sell a window, Mr. Sorensen, but not everybody has Jim, the window installer, who has been voted the best window installer in all of Colorado 3 years in a row, whatever, right? Whatever the story is, right? Whatever the true story is. So now you have that, right? So there's always ways to make the sale. When my wife and I got blinds at our house in Colorado Springs when we first bought that house in Glen Eagle area, we got blinds. They came out, they did a bid, right? You know how he approached us? He had this book of all the competition showing their makes and models and how they do things and the difference in the heat that comes through the window. That's what we were concerned with. It wasn't just like at night we wanted to close it because we had all these windows. Those of you that have seen my house, we had all these windows face the mountain and everything. It wasn't just so the people weren't looking at me walking around naked at night, because I didn't want to embarrass their poor husbands, right? So I wanted to close the shade. So what did we do? We got it for the heat because we didn't want all that heat coming in because it was facing west and the sun's beating in. So he showed us all these R values and all this stuff. So he started with the competition. So he knocked the competition right out of the door. Now that's like it's the best tactic there is if you're going to try to sell our work, because we are a little bit more expensive, but there's nothing like what we do, and our stuff costs money. And sometimes it's no longer just odor control. It's complete restoration. We got to how many times do we get a call like, yes, my cat peed on the carpet? How many spots do you think, Mrs. Jones? Well, maybe 2, because I've seen a couple. We go in there with a black light and there's 50. It's everywhere. So now you're showing Mrs. Jones it's everywhere. And what do you do next? You get on your hands and knees and start smelling to make sure it is urine and not like soap, because soap will give the same kind of look on a black light sometimes. So you get down there and smell, and Mrs. Jones can smell with you. I've had the kids smelling with me. I mean, I've made it a game. And everybody's laughing, and what's going to happen? I'm now their friend, and I want to be their friend because I know that no matter what I'm doing, I'm giving them everything. the very best. And they're not paying me if it doesn't work. So what does it matter? All right. So 12:30. Thank you all. I hope you got something out of this. I hope you learned a little bit. I hope you all go out there now and talk about your experiences of the past and tell a story. A story is what sells. Why do people go to the movies? To watch the story. It's simple. We're made to listen to stories and hear about it. Not bull crap, right? Not like, yeah, well, I'm the best because I'm just the best. I've been doing it the longest. So what? Right? It doesn't matter how long you've been doing it. And another thing, you might be the best and get 10% of the work, and this other person starts today, starts like last week, and he's doing advertising, like he's advertising with us. It doesn't matter who the best is, it's who's at the top when people are searching. Okay. Remember that. Have a great day. See you tomorrow. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye now.